You are now listening to Femme podcast with Tessa Markle
and Carolina Alvarez.
Femme.
Femme.
Hey, Femme. We are back again with another episode and another amazing guest. And we just want to say thank you guys for all of your support. We've had a lot of people asking when the next season is going to come out. You know, right now we're recording about a month ahead of time to when you're going to be hearing this episode. And we love to hear that you guys have missed us. And I also love to hear, you know, I've been hearing from some friends of mine that listen to the podcast that I didn't even know listen to the podcast, you know, because maybe they're not filmmakers or maybe they just discovered us or whatever. So it's always exciting to hear like actual feedback. Like our stories are reaching your ears and you like it.
If they're not listening to your podcast, are they even your friend?
I mean,
listen. No, thank you everyone for who has been listening, who's been supporting the pod, who's been excited for this season. We have another fabulous guest on the show today.
As always, today's guest is Rick Ives. He is a filmmaker who he actually reached out to us because he liked the idea of what we're doing. You know, we're doing female-driven work and we are independent filmmakers. And he's like, okay, this is what I want to do. You know, so he created this awesome movie. It is called Solid Rock Trust. And it is a thriller heist movie that all centers around one female character. It's in one location. There's some other characters in it. There's some flashbacks, things like that. But like, she is carrying the weight of this whole movie. She is telling this whole story. I don't want to give too much away, but she's, you know, essentially in this control room where she's on the phone with these other characters. She does a million accents. It's like amazing. But it was awesome of him to want to shake it up and want to have not just a female lead, but, you know, this story really hinging on this female character and it being a heist, like that's kind of rare and really exciting. So he was generous enough to share that screener with us. We got to watch it and talk about the film today. We also got to talk about his day job, which he does a lot of work in post for Marvel. He started doing dailies. He's working on his way to being a full-time editor and just getting to hear, you know, what he's gone through in that part of the business and what he's aspiring to was really cool.
Yeah, really, really cool stuff. It's great to meet another indie filmmaker who is working a day job, hustling, and making a movie. That's what we're about, guys. Like, just keep up the great work. If you haven't heard it lately, you are enough. You are amazing. So,
you know what's funny? I feel like that, like, you are enough. Like, that's such a thing that I hear all the time in LA and like all the time on like Instagram and stuff now. And it's like, you know, it's almost like getting cliche, but it's so true. But it's like, no wonder we hear it all the time in LA because we're a city of people that are just hustling to make their dreams come true, putting in all this work to have a full-time day job and be creating content in their non-existent free time. You know, like we need to remind ourselves of this.
No, that is actually so on point. It is corny, but I was meditating on this last night on a Sunday evening about the times like Making Sync, our first feature, happen into my own reality where it seemed impossible. Like I said, full-time job and actually not even letting a no be an option. Because in my mind was, okay, if I don't get time off from work, then I'm quitting, then I'm leaving, because I am not going to not give up this opportunity to make a feature. And so I think the times in my life where I was very this focused and I'm like, this is it, what I want to do. And I still worked really hard, like at my day job and on the film, I was able to have both still work out for me. And I think a lot of times when we're like, I don't know, like, no, it's not going to happen. Well, guess what? It's not going to happen because you're not like, you're allowing that to be an option. And again, things don't always work out, sure. But I think a lot of the times in my life when I'm like, just in my head, like, nope, I am enough. I'm going to make this happen. People are going to count on me and it's going to be great. It works out. And it's been a really cool year of seeing that happen for me in my life. And yeah, it's actually very true.
Yeah. Well, guys, I hope you were already inspired. So get
A
ready
little
to
tea
learn a
from
lot
us.
too. Yeah. And I hope that you guys enjoy this episode with Rick.
Welcome, Rick. Welcome to the show, Femme
Thank
Regards
you.
podcast. I'm glad you reached out, if I recall, to us.
Yeah,
How'd
you guys
find
have
us, gals?
I like to listen to a lot of movie podcasts. There's like never enough. And I'm always looking for something else. And you guys have a great show. I love it.
Thank you.
I like the
Oh,
feminist
thank you.
spin and like looking for, women in filmmaking. That's kind of what I was going for a little bit with Solid Rock Trust. Obviously, I'm
Mhm.
not a woman, but casting like a lead woman,
Yeah.
I found more interesting than a lot of the indie stuff that's out there in that way. So that's
Oh,
it.
hell
Absolutely.
yeah. And a heist movie as well. You don't
Mhm.
see a lot of that action. So it's
Yeah,
nice to see.
we showed at a screening that had like 4 or 5 shorts one night and ours, and it was like man. Oh, felt like a breath of fresh air a little bit.
Yes. 100%. I mean, and I love that, that is slowly changing in the world of Hollywood, but
Yeah.
it's really exciting when you get to see like a female-led, thriller, action, heist, like anything like that, because it's so just untraditional and it's
Mhm.
more compelling. It's more fresh.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. So why don't you tell our audience a little bit about the premise of Solid Rock Trust? And I believe you were the writer, director, and editor.
Yeah, this one
film?
was my baby. Yeah, definitely. So
Aw.
let's see. It's a bank heist movie like you've never seen before. So it all takes place in one room. That room is not in a bank. She's in like a distant location. Has a whole bunch of cell phones in front of her, and she's talking to everyone in the bank, kind of orchestrating the whole thing.
Hell
And you
yeah.
hear it all play out the same way a regular bank heist movie would. And so
Mhm.
everything still happens, right? Like double
Right.
crossings, and backstabbings, and cops get called, people get shot, all the stuff. But you've seen it before. So in this way, it's a little bit of a spin where you get to
Yeah.
hear it and kind of leave a lot of it up to your imagination. So
Yeah. Oh, go
It
ahead,
rem-
Carolina.
It reminded me a lot of Michael Bay's Ambulance with Jake
Oh.
G.
yeah,
That's what
okay.
it was serving me. Like right away, I'm like, okay, we're in this room, but there's like a lot on the line that you almost can just stay with it and not be bothered that this is the main location. And watching that film too, I was like, man, they could have made this as an independent feature as well.
Yeah.
Like the gate for me, I got excited. I was like, oh, like independent filmmakers could make stuff like this. Is
Mhm.
you just need solid acting, good writing, and good camera movement, which I loved how you were working the camera in the beginning of the feature. That was really cool.
Thank you. Yeah, a lot of the camera stuff is thanks to Dakota, our DP. I told him early, I kind of want to move slow in the beginning, and then by the end of this movie, it's gonna feel like an episode of 24, where we're right up in their face and shaky and all that stuff to build intensity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I
you're
think
right.
I think it tells the story, like it allows the audience to kind of, first get used to, okay, this is how the story is going to be told. It's one person, she's
It
almost
starts out
kind of
kind of
narrating
simple.
it. Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like easy to follow. Okay, there's a couple
Yeah.
phones. She's talking to different
Ease
people.
you into it. Yeah. And then
Oh,
by
It
the
gets
just
end
more
of the
doing all
episode-
the
complicated.
accents.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course. You can't miss that part. It's the best, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
she did such a phenomenal job. Like those switches, man. She got it. She nailed
Yeah.
it.
So when
Yeah.
we were casting, everyone who read the script was like, "This is great, but you're never going to find somebody who could do this because nobody could do all those accents, especially so quickly."
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
And that was like on the casting sheet was you got to be able to do accents, you got to be able to cry, and that's pretty much all I'm looking for specifically. And she came in and she did more accents than were in the script. Actually,
Oh, wow.
she was
I-
adding to them. Like, could I change this one to like New York, baby, or something? And I'm like, yeah, let's like put as many in as you can do.
I love that. I was curious in watching. I was like, I wonder if they knew each other and like wanted to do this to show off her skills, or if she was
No,
cast. So
I
yeah, that's
found
really
her. It was
interesting.
amazing. Yeah. She just
Yeah.
does it. And I wanted people to see that it's not a trick either. Like we didn't just
Mhm.
do a accent and then cut and then let her get into character somewhere else. We just like she just rolls with it. Every time she hangs up the phone and picks up another one, she's somebody else to that person. And it's so
Yeah.
fun to watch in real time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Definitely.
super impressive. That was also giving me Killing Eve, the assassin. If
Oh,
you were
yeah.
inspired by, I forget, she's an amazing actress, and I fell in love with her in
That's
that.
oh, what's her name?
Jodie Comer
Jodie Comer. That's right.
is the
Newer.
villanelle. Yes. Yes, she's been killing it lately, but I feel like that was able to show off her chops. And
Mhm.
Tessa and I were saying, like, what an amazing feature you made for this actor to like really show off like her diverse skills and able to do
Right.
these accents and bring up the emotion. And then
Mhm.
yeah,
Because it is one
like
person, but you kind of get to see her play a bunch of different roles over the course of it,
exactly.
right?
We're
Yeah.
like, oh, what a perfect film.
Yeah.
Have in your resume. You really
Yeah.
served it her, which
Yeah,
is so
thank you.
nice as an actor. Again, like Tessa and I got into this so we could find more empowering roles for us in the industry as
Mhm.
women. So it's really nice that you wrote a piece like this for a woman to like really shine and show her strengths. So like
That's the kind of stuff I hear people say, like women who aren't, a part for a woman who's older than 25, who's not a mom, or a part of
right.
for somebody who's a minority. I'm like, why don't we just have those? There's no reason not to, right?
Exactly.
So I'm always thinking of like, what's a good role for a 40-year-old woman who's not a
Apparently,
mom?
so when I
Yeah.
turn 30 in a month, I guess I'm just going to turn into a mom. So that's apparently my
Pretty
expected
much.
role,
Yeah.
and that's all I'm going to become.
Not that that's bad, but there's such a spectrum
No,
of other things you can be. And
Exactly.
even if you are a mom too,
Yeah.
you can be more than just a mom. Yeah, what a concept.
Exactly. And that's why, I think independent film is such a powerful thing, because you get to tell your own story. You get to tell stories you're passionate about characters you're passionate about. If you are an actor or you care about actors, you
Right.
get to like give them that moment to shine that they don't always get to have. So I think it's awesome that you wrote a piece like this. And I think that it really gets to show off your talent in storytelling as well, because you're presented with the challenge of essentially one character, carrying the entire story. And sure, there were like cameos and people had voice roles and such, but she really was telling the whole
She does
story
all the
for
heavy
us.
lifting. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And being able to even like build those relationships when you're just hearing the other person's voice over the phone.
Part of that is a testament to our voice actors too, is you get a sense of who they are and where they're coming from a little bit. And I was looking for people whose voices sounded distinct, right? So as soon as you heard someone talk, you
Right.
kind of like remember who that
Smart.
is.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's weird. Even though a lot of them only have collectively like 10 minutes of screen time, you kind of get a feel for, you care about them. And then when, I'm not going to spoil anything, but when bad things happen, hopefully it kind of hurts a little
Yeah.
bit, even though you've never even seen their face,
Mhm.
Right. No,
Yeah.
that's exactly it. And that's what's really hard to do and achieve. And you did a great job of that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And I think I want to go back a little bit. We were talking about the camera work too. I think that that's also an essential part of the storytelling, because it's one of those things in filmmaking that if you are just an observer, if you're just the audience, you don't always necessarily think about that or take note of it. Like you're kind of subconsciously, it's building the story for you, but you don't notice that maybe there isn't a cut, and in this however many scenes in a row, or that you don't notice that a camera's handheld versus whatever it is, but it definitely makes you feel a certain way and definitely tells the story in a certain way. And like we were saying, how the beginning allows the audience to kind of ease into it, and then by the end you've got like quicker cuts and shorter things and different angles, and then that builds the tension.
Yeah. So we haven't talked about it yet, but most of my background is in post-production, and I've cut a handful of indie features and a bunch of shorts. And one of the things I always see is early filmmakers just want to put the camera on sticks and like, okay, push record, let the actors act right there at like a cowboy or a Western. But there's so much more you could do than that,
Yeah.
set yourself
Right.
apart, and it can be handheld without looking cheap if that's part of the DNA of what you want it to look like, so
That's a really good point.
that's what I was trying to do, early on with our DP, was set this apart. Like, yes, we're going to be in one room so people can figure out that we didn't have a huge budget and that's why, but it can still be part of the dialogue of this movie is the camera, and it doesn't have to be like just put a camera right here and like watch her act, almost like you would a stage play, right? Like
Right.
just put it out in the audience and just like let it unfold. But we could be in it. Let us
Absolutely.
be in it. You know.
Well,
Yeah.
the camera acts like another person, right? And you have to decide, like for our sci-fi feature, like what is the character of the camera? And for us, it was like a surveillance cam. It was
Oh,
an
nice.
observer. So I think like that's my little tip for you, fam, is like think about the character of the camera itself, and that'll help guide you with like the movement and kind of what perspective it has. What does it want? What do you want it to see and reveal?
And what's the intensity of the scene? You know, you don't always need to be like moving around. That's not always appropriate.
Right.
I'm sorry, that just made me laugh. Like you have a really romantic scene that's just like shaky hands.
I feel like there was a time in TV when that was the case for everything, right?
Yeah. Totally.
That's
and
so
even
true.
movies, like the whole fad of that like Blair Witch Project feel where it's like sometimes it's appropriate, but when the whole movie's shaky handheld, like I can't.
Right. It has to be within the context of your movie too. But yeah, you're right. Like what are you revealing right now? Like even a slow push-in can be so much if it's at the right time. Yeah.
We love it.
I want to hear more about your guys' feature too, because you were talking about that before you went on a break, right?
That's
Yeah.
right.
Man, I want to know about an indie sci-fi feature from these ladies. So we got to talk about that too.
Oh yeah, we can get into the tea and then we'll go back to
you
we're
shot
in
it
post
now, right?
Yeah,
yes, we're
okay.
in post.
You're in post.
Yeah.
Okay.
We
and
did
what's it called?
It's called Sync.
Sync. All right.
Like
It's a feature length.
SYNC sync. Yeah.
Like you're syncing, so it's about mind syncing, and it's in the near future because everyone's going to be microchipped real soon, real quick.
You know it, of course.
You know it. And a new communications app called Sync is out where two individuals can sync mind who are chipped to, foster better and closer communicate, be able to communicate better and foster closer relationships. And just by being able to not only communicate mentally, but kind of share more than what they probably think they can share.
And this goes wrong, right?
Of course.
Because this is already sounding like my nightmare.
Right. That's the whole thing.
Oh, so you wouldn't sync? You wouldn't do it?
It would be tempting, I'm sure.
It's so tempting.
But
yeah, we shot it in 11 days.
Yes.
Okay, that's what we did.
Low budget.
So 11 days.
Love that. Yeah. We wanted to create something that we could film for a low budget that could show off what we could do, that was going to tell a compelling story and share a message that we care about. So that really just kind of wrapped it all into that. And we're really excited to finish post and get it out there.
That's good. Oh, nice. Yeah. The other big thing that I see real low budget indies kind of make a mistake on is trying to be something they're not. Right? Like if you have $50,000, don't try to make a $500,000 movie.
Exactly.
Don't try to make a $5 million movie. Make a $50,000 movie.
Exactly.
Often I could just see the budget because you're like too many locations, too many actors, too many stunts.
Right.
It's like, I can tell that you can't do what you're hoping to be able to do. So make it something that you can do. It sounds like that's exactly what you guys decided.
Yeah. I mean, from the very beginning, like we knew what we were capable of. And to be fair, when we were writing and mostly Carolina, it's essentially her project that she wrote. But we were collaborating in it and talking about like, what is possible, what isn't. Okay, let's get the story out on the page of like how we would love to film it if we just had whatever budget, and then cut back from there. Like what can we actually accomplish? Because like originally we had one scene, for instance, that has this car crash, and like, okay, we knew we weren't going to actually crash cars, but like, could we fake a car crash and it would still be on the road out at night? And then we're like, okay, we don't even need quite that. We can have some car parts in a studio, So building the story we wanted and then taking it down to the notches that we knew we'd be able to accomplish.
Right. And with artistic license, you can like imply a lot of things without actually seeing them too, right?
Exactly.
I love that. See, that's such creative filmmaking. That's what I love to see.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes having limited resources, it pushes you to be more resourceful and creative about what you have. And so we were like, okay, like we don't have the budget to do multiple locations. Like we need to narrow it down to like 2 and like do some exteriors. So I think it pushed me to like get our dream sequences, like Tessa was saying, from like exterior locations to just narrow it down to a black void, which actually makes a lot more sense with the mind syncing that's happening. And so it's like our dream black void, kind of what
Got
you
it.
end up seeing. And I am in love with it. Like, I'm so excited to see those scenes come out.
A lot of times I'm thinking about like what makes good movies or what makes people want to go see something. And I think a lot of times it's just that we want to see something we've never seen before,
Mhm.
you know? And that's why the big budget movies are so enticing, because like, oh, I've never seen that city get destroyed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you
I don't
can
care for
think
those movies.
you can think about it the same way with a low budget movie. Like you still want to show them something you've never seen. So you just have to be more creative and like figure out a way to put this on film or tell the story that nobody's told before. And that hopefully is enticing enough to get people like, oh, I've never seen that before. That's worth my time.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it shows that, you know, you can do that on a low budget with the
Right.
things we've accomplished, with the things that you've accomplished with Solid Rock Trust. Like you can do something totally fresh and totally new and totally, you know, enticing and enthralling for an audience with next to no money.
I'm thinking what you were describing, how the sync looks. It's reminding me of Get Out, which you guys saw, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when he goes into his, I don't know, what do you call it? Like hypnotist.
Yeah. When
Right,
he goes
right.
under hypnosis. Yeah.
It's literally nothing, right? Like
Yeah.
visually, it's just him in black zooming away from the camera. Anybody can do that. But they thought of that in a way that no one had. So in that way, it's something
Right.
you've never seen before. That's the kind of
Yeah.
stuff you got to like figure out. How can we show something unique here?
Exactly. Exactly.
No, that's a great example. It's simple and effective, like,
Mhm.
and still, like you said, a new twist on it, which is
Mhm.
really cool.
Mhm.
Like Rick, from our small beginnings, and tying in like what we're saying, doing something more low budget to show what we can achieve on still a lower budget, high quality, showing high quality on a lower budget. We were originally set out to do a Western, which was our first short proof of concept. It was a new take on a spaghetti Western, strong female leads such as ourselves.
And still a period piece.
And still a period
And that's
piece.
what's impossible.
And it was possible for a short proof of concept, but that's where it stayed. And that's why we learned from doing that, which goes to show, like, anyone, like, just go do something, learn from it, and see where, you know, you can finesse it to work with, you know, where you're at in your career. And for us, we're like, all right, we're able to do something like sync first. Hopefully we can get more money for a bigger production and fulfill our spaghetti Western dreams. So that's kind of what we set out to do with Sync, and still like fell in love. Like Tessa said, we found a story that really we connected with. And I can't believe that's what I wrote, because I'm not a sci-fi girl. Like I don't know, but it's because what we kept telling everyone, our investors, is that it was an emotional, psychological kind of story about female friendship and toxic relationships. And then the technology is just like this vessel for that relationship to grow and continue to be toxic. So like that was kind of our emotional tie to it. And the technology we just ended up learning more about, and it was incredible. But for you, what did you have like or do you have kind of a game plan for what you want to do after you kind of let Solid Rock Trust do its thing? Are you done with festivals? Talk to us a little bit now how you're feeling about the project and what excites you for the future.
Okay, good question. I'm a little bit different than a lot of other people, I think, because I'm working full time in the film industry already. Not
same. We're gonna get there.
Okay.
We're gonna get there.
I want to be an editor, and I started writing screenplays just as an exercise to become a better editor, because I felt like if I could understand why a screenplay is put together the way it is, like why does this scene happen here, and where are we coming from, where are we going to, like how do character arcs work, why is that important? All of that would make me a better in the editing room, because I would understand 100%. What the writer was doing. Yeah. So kind of in my free time, I just put scripts together for fun, and I've got 7 or so. that I would love to do, of course. And if
Sure.
somebody comes along and is like, hey, this movie was amazing, I'm going to give you X number of dollars to do another one. What do you want to do? Like, well, let's pick one of these. I would
Yeah.
love something like that.
Amazing.
Right now, though, I don't really have any other plans to make one at the moment. Obviously, there's ones I would care to do more than others, but I don't know what to
You're
tell
enjoying Solid
Maybe.
Rock Trust right now.
Yeah. A lot of it will depend on if someone comes along and wants to spend, and then also if I have breaks in my regular schedule, to make that work. But
And with
No,
Solid Rock Trust, are you like in festivals or anything with it at the moment?
oh yeah, okay, so that's different too. Is I ended up not going the festival route. I
Okay.
entered it in a couple really big ones and didn't make it in because I realized I'm competing with 10 or 15 million dollar indie
Yeah.
movies. That's
Right.
air quotes. And
Yeah.
I didn't know if I could commit even to smaller ones like for a year because I
Mhm.
got a family, I got a full-time job. I can't
It's
be gone
tough.
all the time. I just found, so we distributed through Indie Rights and it's available on like everywhere. It's on YouTube, but it's on Tubi and Amazon, and you can do a rental or watch for free in some of those places. And I just wanted to get it out there and let people start watching it. So I was tired of
Yeah.
waiting. It
No,
takes
I
long
love
enough
that.
it takes long enough to get through post-production. You're like, can't we just get this over with, right? And then you
Totally.
want to spend
Yeah.
another year doing festivals. God bless people who have the time and money to do
Yeah.
stuff like that. I think that's great. Hopefully you guys can do that. And part of me is a little sad that we didn't have that experience to go around and meet people and get real in-time audience feedback. But this is what it is. Maybe on the next one I could try something like that.
Yeah. And I mean, there's no right or wrong way to do it. Like, it depends what you want for your movie, like
Right.
for us, I know we do want to go the festival route just for our, like the way that we want our careers to progress, like the things that we want to do. We need to meet a lot more filmmakers and really get in that space. So it makes sense for us. But like, you wanted to get your movie out there as soon as possible. Like, absolutely. If you have that in for the distribution, why not?
Yeah.
Which I'm curious, like, how did you find this distribution route? Like, did you
I
already
feel like I
know?
heard of it. I've heard of Indie Rights, right? That's
Yeah,
a
they do a
pretty
lot
big
of
one.
They're one of the bigger micro budget distributors,
Yeah.
I guess.
Okay.
There's a handful out there. I don't know. You could do some Googling and find like who will buy your movie.
Mhm.
There's like 20 or 30 that are worth looking into. And I had offers from a couple.
Oh,
and
that many.
Indie Rights
That's nice.
Indie Rights felt like the most transparent to me. And kind of the shortest contract. I don't know if you guys care this much about it, but these days, if you're
Oh, we
trying to
care.
get a distributor for something like this, a lot of them want like your movie for 20 or plus years.
Mhm.
And I can't imagine myself being 50 and finally getting my movie back. That seems like so long.
Oh, I
And-
see. To eventually have it.
And who's to say they will do anything
Mhm.
with it after 2 years, And then it
Right.
could just be stuck.
Yeah. It's a really long
Exactly.
contract. Mhm.
That's not quite what their contract was like. It was shorter than that. And I felt good about. So we went that route. And then they have like a release schedule that they do all the different platforms. And then they're constantly looking for more to put it on internationally as well. So
Mhm.
we'll see. Fingers crossed.
Fingers
Yeah.
crossed. That's exciting, Rick. No, you've accomplished a lot with it, and it's always inspiring for us who are on this new journey
Mhm.
of going through a bigger post-production than we have ever had, and like everything feels really new. It's always inspiring to hear like you can get distribution for your low budget feature that was shot in one location,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you can do it. And I think a lot of people are like, oh, my movie wasn't big enough. And it's like, no, there are platforms. You just got to do, like you said, the research and shift through everything. Just, you got to set aside time for and research.
The other one I'll shout out, which is not technically a distributor, but it's called Film Hub. I don't know if you guys have come
Mhm.
across that one.
I think I heard
Yeah.
that one too.
At the very least, if no one will take you, Film Hub will take you because they're not a distributor. It's just like it's like an aggregate. Like it's a film
Mhm.
market. You put your
Mhm.
movie on there and then it's available for all the platforms you want to get to.
Mhm.
And then it's kind of up
Yeah.
to you to do all the marketing, which can be annoying if you want to do all that, but it's also empowering because
Yeah.
it could be as much as you want,
And it's nice
Hell
to know
yeah.
that there are options out there, depending on how much you feel confident in and how much you want to take on, that you can go, a more traditional distributor route, or you could even, go to a sales agent to then find a
Mhm,
distributor,
mhm,
like however you want to however you want to pursue that, or you have the option of something like Film Hub where, you know, it's really
At the
just
very
in your
least, your
hands.
movie will be released.
Yeah.
It's not like it's just never going to go out because no one will take it, you know?
Yeah.
I think
And
that
I,
might have been what it was more like before
yeah.
when it was all DVD only, you know? Like
Mhm.
if somebody isn't going to take this and put it out, then you have no hope. Like where will
Yeah.
it ever go? But that's not the world
Yeah.
we live in anymore.
It's always interesting to me too when I talk to people who are less independent filmmakers and more in the space of, you know, they're not necessarily in charge for, you know, the big movies or anything like that, but they work more in that space and they see more of that side of films where, like you were saying, the quote unquote indies, but they're actually, you know, A-list talent and millions of dollars budget. And, you know, talking about our movie and they're like, oh, well, you don't have name talent. So like, you're probably not going to sell it. And it's like, okay, yes, those are the things that sell to the big players. You know, we're not trying to get on HBO Max, but like,
Right. Of course.
we can still sell our film. We can still get it out there for people to see. Like that is still absolutely possible.
Yeah. The more I talk to distributors, the more I hear there's an audience for your movie out there. There's enough people who are interested in something. You just have to find them. That's like incredibly difficult, but it exists. There's like enough market out there for Fast and Furious fans and Marvel fans, and also like low budget indies.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, it's encouraging, and listeners, be encouraged. Do it. Do the research. No, it's great to hear, Rick. I want to switch it back over to the day job. I also work full-time in post-production, localization, and mastering. So it's real fun. Real hectic over here. So I feel for you. But tell us a little bit about what you do, and it sounds like it's in the post side of things as well.
Yeah, so I am currently, well, I guess not even currently because we're all on strike right now. We've been shut down for the second half of this year, but most of the time I would tell you I'm an assistant editor for Marvel Studios. So I got started doing dailies, which you know, Carolina, what that is, but maybe everyone doesn't. That's where they shoot during the day and then they have to process all the film at night, except it's not film anymore, it's all digital. Still the same kind of thing, like bring it to the computer and prep it for editorial. And so I started doing that, and I kind of got into the Marvel world doing those. So I worked on the two latest Avenger movies, Endgame, Infinity War. And then after that, I shifted over to editorial where I received those dailies. And now I'm an assistant, like prepping all that stuff for the lead editors. And that was around the time all the Disney Plus stuff started. So a lot of the TV shows that I've been on, I worked on. And then plus Guardians of the Galaxy 3, that was this year, and then a handful more that I can't even say yet. But
Yeah, that's awesome. Like, how did you even get into that? Did you know that your end goal was going to be in editing, or like, how did that all start for you?
I loved post-production. When I was a kid making movies in high school, I was like the guy who was the editor, you know?
Yeah.
When I was 16 or 17, making school projects and stuff.
GarageBand, adding sound effects.
Yes. I had like a pirated copy of Adobe Premiere like long ago. It came on 4 or 5 CDs, and you had to like have this text file that was a crack to get it to open on your computer.
Oh my God.
Anyways, in college, it was the same thing. Like I was always the guy people went to edit their shorts. And I had chances to work on set and did on a couple big projects, but my heart was always in post. So when a big job opening like Avengers comes up on dailies, like, yeah, I'm taking that one. So that's when I moved out to Atlanta, actually, from LA, was to take that. And then there was just enough work out here that I never really went home. So my family and I stayed here. Yeah.
Wow.
Does that answer that question enough? Or do you want something
No,
else?
that totally does.
Okay.
No, it does. And I personally, whenever Carolina and I were talking about what you do, I was like, what did he do for Marvel? Was it dailies? And I was like, I realized I knew what dailies were, but I didn't really know like whose job that was to handle those and to send them where they need to go, you know? So I guess for me, like I knew that was a part of the filmmaking process, but I didn't know who did it. I didn't, I wouldn't know who to hire for all of that. So it's always interesting to hear people in those roles that it's like, we know somebody has to do that. We know it's part of it, but like,
Right.
yeah.
There's a lot of credits at the end of those movies.
Yeah.
There's a lot of jobs. There's a couple paths to get into editorial, and a lot of people you'll find out do PA job, so production assistant, and then you can like work your way into a post-production PA, and then maybe get on as an assistant at some point. But for people who are looking to get into post-production, I would start researching Daly's houses because they're always looking for people. It's kind of like hard work, a lot of times it's night shift and boring, and you're looking at the same stuff all the time.
Yeah.
But if there's openings, man, get in there and work on amazing things, because you'll be so proud of the stuff that you have your name on.
Yeah. And that's great advice too, because I feel like on this podcast, we're always encouraging people who want to be behind the camera to start as a PA on a set, because then you get to see what everybody does and you get to see what goes into it all. And, you can either shadow if you already know like what direction you want to go in, or you can see what's available to you and everything. But so this is a great path then for people that specifically want to be involved with post.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like I didn't ever went the PA route. I was never one like ever at all. But I feel like those positions are more sought after because people know, oh, you got to be a PA, right? But I promise you, nobody's cold calling Daly's houses and be like, hey, if you guys have an opening, I don't have any experience, but I'm looking for an entry level. And then they'll call you in 6 months, at some point, because they're desperate for people.
That's great to hear. No, that's like really good to hear if anyone's listening and interested in editorial, because it seems intimidating from like the standpoint of all the things that go into it.
Right.
And like, what position do you start? So you would say dailies are like the PAs for the set.
Well, there are PAs in editorial. So that's a similar role too, but dailies is weird. It's like non-union job, but you're doing kind of union work because you're still working in software.
Yeah.
And you're still like pushing buttons on the Avid in a lot of cases. And yeah, it's just strange. I don't know. It's weird.
I mean, I give kudos to anyone that does any sort of editing, because I cannot I edit like audio for like our podcasts, and I do audiobooks and stuff like that. But when it comes to the video, like Carolina has to do it all for us. I'm like, girl, I don't have that talent. I don't have that eye. But like, it's such, even going back to what we were saying about how the camera can tell the story, editing as well. Like it's another like kind of subconscious thing sometimes for an audience, but it's so important and it's so vital to setting a mood, setting a pace, all of that. And even sometimes, you'll film a whole project, and then once it's in the editing room, it's like it could take on a totally different tone, or even like the plot could change some, and so much can just
depending
be
on the director.
accomplished.
What's the director? Terrence Malick, right? He just goes and shoots like 8 hours a day. You know who I'm talking about?
Yeah.
To the Wonder, and there's like a Pocahontas movie that he did, but they would just like go out and walk around with the camera and then literally write the script after it's shot, and it turns into something different. Like,
it's wild. Man. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's like, especially when you're an editor, it's like you have to deal with what the director's bringing to the table. You have to deal with the footage they give you and the story they want. And, unless you're editing your own projects, like you're hired on.
Tell us what that's like. How's dealing with the big time directors?
And no matter who the director is, if it's a $200 million movie and they call you to act in it, you're going to say yes, because you have to.
Yeah.
You get a lot of calls, don't you, Rick?
No, not quite.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Have you had any situations where you had to kind of like last minute do something because the director wanted XYZ to happen and you had to do it by tomorrow?
Good question. Yeah, a lot of that was happening when I was first starting out doing 3D dailies for that company. Because a lot of it was like test material, and man, I remember probably one of my worst days was we stayed up all night prepping this test because they had shot it the night before. It was a Western. They had like people on horseback and helicopters flying around with spotlights, and we stayed up all night like prepping the footage. And by the time the VIP showed up the next day, I literally hadn't slept all night. I couldn't even see straight.
Yeah.
And I went to the door. It was on a Saturday, I remember, because our receptionist was not there, so I had to let him in. And front door was Jon Favreau and Daniel Craig, and they were there because the test was for Cowboys and Aliens, and I got like weak in the knees all of a sudden, like, what's happening right now? How did I get here? Like, take them back to the theater
Like,
and show them
oh.
this footage. Like, this is my life. I couldn't even, yeah, it was like a dream. We had a lot of nights like that. Like, man, you just have to get this stuff because the VIPs need to see this tomorrow. And
Right.
I'm kind of tired of working that hard. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
willing to work hard, but that's tough.
I'm feeling you. I'm feeling you on that. But it's my next kind of question was, do you feel that working these jobs and editorial, these long hours and dealing with clients and all the different things that you do you feel like it helped you do your first feature? And what kind of, I guess, encouragement would you give to someone like us all who have full-time jobs and, are managing things? Because we always like to say it's doable. You're an example, Rick. So yeah, what would you say about managing that and what you've learned from having the full-time job and doing your own feature?
You definitely need to have it in you to like work on the nights and weekends. Like,
Yes.
there's just no getting away around that, right?
Yeah.
Nope.
So
Working
you really-
straight, honey. Working straight.
You really have to care almost to an insane amount that I can make this work for myself,
Yeah.
no matter how long it takes.
Been
Um,
many days like that.
If you can find a job in the industry, though, it's like education every day because you're constantly around new directors, new producers, new people in charge, new people you're in charge of, and you spend a lot of time figuring out what works and what doesn't work, right? So I'm not gonna name any specifics, but
Name the
I was on a
specifics.
I was on a
Femme Regard
show
podcast. Tell us
where they
all
were
your
shooting
secrets.
like 3 cameras, and for a scene that was like 4 pages, we'd have, I don't know, 40 angles and I'm like, this seems like so much. If I'm ever doing this, I like the 2 camera idea, but I feel like you could have more in mind exactly what you want, right?
Yeah. And think about all the footage then you have to like give to your editor to go through.
Yeah. It just feels like you're covering yourself in any possibility, and spending
It's
a
like
lot
you
of
don't
time.
have clear direction.
Yeah, exactly. And then sometimes you're with other directors and you're like, man, they knew exactly what they wanted. That is so cool to just set the camera here. This is going to be the move. And now we get to focus on the actors getting a performance that we like,
Yeah.
and letting them improvise a little bit if they want to, or try some different things. But we know outside of what the actors are doing, we know what we want from this, and it makes it a lot more smooth later. So I've tried to echo that kind of thing in my own work and like visualize what I want this to look like and, steer myself in that direction from the beginning and hopefully try to take some of the choice out of the edit room.
Yes, that's a really good point, and something that for my director journey, I want to definitely get better at is just really, really knowing and no second guessing. We're always going to have like a little doubt here and there.
And you do have to cover yourself some. Don't get me wrong. You're not only going to shoot exactly what you need, but within reason, look no further. Go back to Raiders of the Lost Ark and watch some of those scenes that you don't even realize are one shot because the blocking happens in a way that it feels like a bunch of different things are happening, even though the camera never cuts. And if you could be smart like that, you could save so much time and money and it still tells the story, maybe even better than cut, like pushing, close up, all those things. So anyways, that's my advice is if you could find a job where you're on set around those people, especially higher up people who are at the top of their craft working, you can learn so much. And even though you're not in the director chair or it's not your script, man, it's an education every day because you can see what's working, what's not working, what you gravitate towards. And at the end of the day, like you see what made it into the movie and why. And you have, that's something that no one sees in movies except for people like me, like I saw all the bad takes and why they picked this one.
Right.
That's a really amazing point and a privilege.
It's hard to teach people that unless you can see it for yourself. So
yeah. And I'll say too, even, for people listening that maybe aren't somewhere where you get the opportunity to be on set, maybe you're just kind of, living in the middle of nowhere, middle America, whatever, like educate yourself and you know, have an idea by reading books, listening to podcasts, whatever, kind of what goes on set, what goes into it, and then watch movies. Because if you know what to look for, you can learn a lot just by watching the movies and not having anything to do with being on set for them or anything. You know, you just have to know what to look for. You have to know how to be able to recognize certain things. I mean, even like, you know, when me and Carolina are on set, like trying to explain certain things to people, it's like, we'll be referencing things that we can't just describe, oh, I want it to feel this way, I want it to look this way, unless you can compare it to something, you know, and then you know that you will have the same vision as the person you're describing it to.
Yeah, definitely. And find a movie that you like and sit and read the script while you're watching it. And you can just see like, oh, it's not how I would have pictured it on the page, but I see, you know, what they came up with and, you know, maybe why they did it that way. And it works so well, or it doesn't work so well. Right.
Yeah.
And man, there are with YouTube these days, so many like analyze, I don't know what you call them, but like analyzation.
Oh yeah.
videos.
Yeah. People analyzing the movies. Yeah.
You can learn so much from
Yeah.
why a director did it this way, or why it's blocked this way, or why it's this color, or why the music comes in now. Man, it's amazing.
That's been
There's no excuse for you out there. There's no excuse.
Exactly.
You can find it.
Exactly.
YouTube College, baby. It's free. It's free unless you pay for premium, but you don't need to do that. It's fine. You don't. Just don't. You don't.
There's
need
ad blockers out there. Come
on. Yeah.
That's so true. That's so true. No, I love everything you said. I think that's exactly what the kind of mindset I think an individual can have and be successful and have a full time and like you said, it's a lot of work, but you get to have a movie at the end of the day, which I always told myself it's like being pregnant, but kind of, where you're just like, okay, like this really sucks a lot of the time because you know, I don't think we preach it a lot on this pod, but you hear it a lot. Like, enjoy the journey.
Yeah,
and I keep telling myself, like, enjoy the journey. But there are times when
you have to
not.
You have to just like this process, because part of it is like, this is just fun anyways, right?
Yeah.
It is when from I guess me personally, and I'm curious how it was for you too, but like the day I set foot on set, that's when I was like in heaven and having like the most fun. But like the worst period was the 2 weeks before, where I like couldn't sleep at all and like would wake up crying because I couldn't sleep. So I wasn't even like, was I waking up? I was just like, it was just so stressful because we'd never done a feature before and like had to cram in lines. That was the only time I could take off work to like have 100% focus and not be doing a million emails at the same time. So I was just felt like I was going insane for a while. So like,
and then by the end of it, you're on the verge of tears. Like, I can't believe we made it this far.
Exactly. It's so beautiful. Right now. Yeah. So do you two like relate? Like, it's a lot, but then I feel like it all kind of goes away when you're finally on set and you're doing the thing that you love to do. And it's just like,
it is amazing to see the thing that you worked so hard to get here. And now it's on the screen in front of you, like you imagined it. Like, oh, it's real. I can't believe this is happening. And it's different for you guys because you're the actors, so you see yourselves. But when I saw my character Maddie for the first time, like sitting at that desk, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's exactly how I pictured it. Yeah. And I'm going to tell you, it's more like having a baby than you realize, because I've got 3 kids now. Actually, I just had my third a month ago.
Oh my God, Mazel.
It's so hard. It's so hard. And you think there's no way through this. And then this is nature's way of making you have more kids, because as time goes on, you think, oh, that was just so great. I could probably do that again.
Exactly.
That's just like making a movie. At the end, you think, I could never do this again. But as time passes on, you know what? That wasn't so bad. I could probably do 3 weeks of prep.
Yeah.
Get through it.
Literally. I was already like, we had wrapped and we're like getting post-production started. And I'm like, already like, oh, I want to write this. I have like a new idea. And I'm like, oh my God, Carly, you're going to do it to yourself again. But we are, because that's what we love to do. So I think at the end of the day, when you love it, you can't help it. It is a lot of work, but yes, it's worth it. And for us, especially because we work so hard in pre-production, that production was so smooth and
Yeah,
enjoyable.
yeah.
So it's like, do the work and it's going to be really hard. But then it's such a great payoff when you can finally be on set with your fans, making a movie. It's
Hopefully
the
most of the
best.
decisions have been made already, because that's the problem with the indies, right? Is all of a sudden you have 10
Right.
hours or less, you got 5 hours at this location, and you
Yeah.
haven't decided all these things ahead of time, and now you're missing things
Mhm,
that you're not going to
mhm.
get. And but you can make those choices ahead of time. It's sort of a game
Yeah.
that you have to play with yourself, like, how much of this can I do in advance?
We
Exactly.
strived for like everything as possible, because exactly that, we knew we only had certain hours of the day to do it, and so many days. And I think that's what we were saying. When you don't have a lot, you have to like be smart and work kind of harder, but smarter, and you could achieve still everything, because I feel like a lot of time gets wasted. I really do. I think a lot
so
of
much
time gets
time.
wasted on indie sets or even big budget sets. Like, did you
Definitely
really need
big
to
budget
have,
sets. It's
Yeah.
right?
crazy.
Because you have all this luxury, you have all this resources.
You
So
have all the money.
why do you
need.
have to hustle?
Yeah.
When really it's like, no, you really could have done this in 2 days, bro. And like,
I was
wrapped it
working
up.
on a movie. I'm not going to say which one. It involves
Damn it.
sci-fi.
Yeah,
We're gonna get you to slip.
big sci-fi spectacle movie. We went over to stage 8 one
Enter.
day, and there was like a huge spaceship that we're gonna shoot for like 2 days. And we
Okay.
walk in, everyone gets set up, and the director's like, I don't like this spaceship. I'm not gonna. No, we're not shooting this right now. And now everyone's scrambling. Like, okay, maybe we go to stage 2 and shoot that stuff because that set's ready. And so we
Yeah.
all spent half the day setting up in one location to
Oh my
break it
God.
down and set up in the other location because he didn't like the spaceship. And I'm like, dude, they've been building this spaceship for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Like, how did
Never-
you not see did they
You
not see
never
the
came
mock-ups?
by?
Like,
It's next door.
oh my God.
So wild.
my
And I'm like,
God.
man, I can't believe you probably just wasted $1 million.
Mhm.
Just threw it away
Hmm.
that fast. Because what, you're spending $1 to $2 million a day, just to shoot.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's the kind of stuff
That
you see, and you're
hurts. That like
man,
hurts.
you're right.
Because
It's just not planned out ahead of time. And personalities, some people, they're just hard to work with, whatever. But
Yeah.
I could not believe that I saw that happen. I'm like, that's never going to be me.
No.
How can you not know that? So you're right. It just wasted all the time. And when you feel like you have infinite amount of money,
Yeah.
that's
I
why
mean,
that's why you get some bad big budget movies, because
Yeah.
people aren't being careful,
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
it's like we said earlier, like with our first little Western proof of concept, it's like when you don't have the luxury of that, you have to be efficient. You have to put the prep work in. You have to be humble and, take what you can get and figure out how to make that into the best possible end product.
yeah.
You guys are an inspiration.
Thank you.
Oh,
I can't wait to
thank
see it.
you. Oh, this was such a fun conversation to have another fellow independent filmmaker, editor, just kind of hear what you went through. We all share the same pain.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
and enjoy the same outcome of like getting to see your baby come to life and getting to create incredible stories that are different. And for us, we share the love of female focused films that, show women in a different, more empowered light than, we were used to seeing. So thanks for joining this revolution, the Femme
Yes.
Revolution.
Yes. Well, thank you for
And-
having me. Yeah, you guys are great.
Hell
Keep up the
yeah.
great work.
Thank
I love
you.
Oh, thank you.
And please, Rick, share with our listeners, where they can find you, where they can find Solid Rock Trust, any of the socials, all that.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna give you the link to our link tree so you can put in the show notes. And you could
Perfect.
find it, or if you Google search Solid Rock Trust, you'll find it on Tubi and YouTube and where else? It's on Amazon. It might be a couple other places, but leave us a little comment somewhere on IMDb or Rotten Tomatoes. We're 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, so people like it.
Oh,
Just trying to get it out there.
congrats. Yes, I
Yeah.
love that.
Hell yeah. Let's go. Everyone go watch his film. Enjoy. And thank you, Rick, for joining us.
Thanks for listening to Femme Regard Podcast. If you like what you hear, tune in every Friday for more tips on the filmmaking business and insightful conversations with industry professionals. We can only grow with your support, so please subscribe, share, rate, and review. You can also join the Femme Fam on Patreon. For more on us, check us out at femregard.com.